SHALA log 148. September report on this project. So here we go. I get a sense that wherever you are in the 15 time zones that we clock in from, you're in a sort of new phase of the year. I don't want to be too US centric, or for those of us in the US to be too US centric. We're here from all kinds of contexts. And so the unique challenges that are presenting themselves in the United States are just part of the shared experience here. Yeah, more on that in a minute. We switched the Wednesday class time to 7 a.m. to accommodate the schedules of many of you I talked to. So let's run that experiment for a while and see how it works. There will be meditation if you want to join, starting at 6:30 on Wednesdays. On the calendar for the end of October, the week before the election in the United States, there is a annual Purva Karma, ritual period of self-renewal. This is something from the Ayurvedic tradition that we've been doing every year for, 8-9 years. And it is happening the 24th through 31st of October. I will send all kinds of information going forward. For now, if you can, put it on your calendar as a period for deliberate social media diet and a little extra self-care and maybe a simplified food diet for a reset period in the fall. I wanted to remind the group of something that we discussed in the spring, which is that the platform that we're using only has so much capacity. And we have a lot of capacity, right? We've generated an enormous amount of material and ideas and relationship in the Slack platform that we have been so fortunate to be able to utilize these last 6 months. But at some point, our creative capacity is going to overwhelm the account that we have, and some of the old material is going to start to go poof. I like that. I don't want to be manufacturing a permanent archive. The nature of this practice is ephemeral. The way that we are creating and interacting still has a high level of sort of evanescence to it. So I don't want to be too attached, even though it's meaningful for a lot of you. So I mention this now just to kind of emotionally prepare you for if some old stuff starts to disappear. But also I know that some of you found real value in the early content that we generated. So the next little while might be a time to go back to the early archives and redigest some of that material if it's really helpful for you. The private videos, you can save them. I won't delete those, but you just have to find them in a different platform. So they're yours. If you want them going forward. Those I will not make go poof, but I'm also not going to make them public. I do feel that in the months going forward, the project and I have the capacity to include a few more people. And there are several of you who I think could make use of those resources and the classes that we're doing and the fun stuff that we're doing. So that's something I'm very much aware of, and I know a few of you have actually done your research and are interested in what we're doing. So those of you who are in that number, I'll be in touch. But also, if you're in the group and you see a few new people pop in, that's what that is. It's mostly people who've been coming on Fridays for a while. Several of you have asked me to be really open with you about funding. So, at the beginning of this thing, I went through some serious uncertainty about whether I would go into personal bankruptcy, and had some non-attachment that I had to process. And at this point, we are in such a different space. So still, I know those of you in Europe might be very shocked to hear that in America there's not a lot of rent forgiveness. But indeed, that the real situation is that people who don't own their homes or condos are in a place where at some point we will see rounds of evictions happen in this country. So that's the real serious situation. For the SHALA, it just means that I personally am on the hook to pay the rent, unless I were to find some sort of a grant to cover it. And in our situation, it's not really applicable. We're fine. I predict that through the end of the year, that's not going to be a crisis that comes up, but I promise you, if it does, I will be forthcoming about that and let you know and ask for help. In the meantime, I just want to thank you all for your accountability and clarity about making a donation at the first of the month. We're all coming in from different contexts with different needs, and that enables the SHALA to be in good standing in a lot of ways. And it's wonderful, and it's like a basis of basic trust that I really appreciate. There are a slew of direct messages that I am behind on. So I'll get there. When I get there, there's a lot going on right now. I just wanted to note that and let you know that I'll close those loops in the foreseeable. There is, you don't know it, but a few of you are in a book group that hasn't actually realized itself. So in February in Peru, I read this book, Sand Talk by Tyson Porta. It's a total joy to read. It's accessible. I wish I would have read it in high school. And yet complex. So there are a lot of different layers that you could sort of enter into the text at. Sort of like we were saying about the Yoga Sutras. And numerous people in this group are reading it now. So I kind of think that you'll find each other and have a space to share that experience within the Slack. I recommend it. I actually last week listened to the audio version in preparation for this video. And that, I think this, because the topic of the book is oral cultures and patterned ways of thinking, the recorded audio version actually landed with me in a way that's actually a little deeper than the reading version. So you can get that through the Libby app, through your local library. If there's one person in Ann Arbor who would like to borrow my copy of the physical book, let me know. Goes to the first person who gets back to me. Labor Day, Monday, is the last day that we're going to practice together outside. Kim and I and anybody else who wants will bring a bounty from our garden, and I'm not going home with it. So, and neither is she. So anybody, if you have something to share, bring it. And everybody else, your responsibility is to take from the bounty, go home and eat it and cook it for your family and dry the herbs and all of that. This has been an amazing season of time together, practicing outside. Yesterday was phenomenal. The moon was huge and there were no clouds in the sky. And there was this situation where the moon was setting because it's almost full and the sun was rising simultaneously across this huge dome of sky. I got a little distracted, I will admit. But some of these experiences together have been memories that'll be with me forever. I encourage you to seal it in if you've been part of that. And Monday, right after class, I will get in my car and I will drive to the Upper Peninsula. I'm going to stay for a week by myself and have some time in the forest, but I will have Wi-Fi and teach as usual. And then I'm going to head on to Minneapolis and see a crew of you on Friday. And eventually I'll land in Montana with my parents. I wanted to say something about that. I'm a really private person, and yet I'm really open about my feelings and my relationship with my family. And the reason for that is that it's the clear expression of my practice. 20 years ago, when I started this practice, I was totally alienated from my parents and really bitter about the decisions they'd made to raise me in an incredibly bizarre and traumatizing situation. Even though the family unit is actually really stable and healthy, the situation we all found ourselves in was so difficult to describe that I don't even know where to begin. Incredibly difficult. And I left Montana without any kind of financial support for anything outside of that. And I built a life that was separate and a little bit of a, like, screw you to where I'd come before. And when I got serious about my yoga, I had to start to challenge the driving narrative that had given me a lot of energy to escape that situation. And it was really a deep feeling of feeling fundamentally misunderstood. And not supported in my needs and desire to be in the world. And that feeling of being misunderstood created a lot of energy for me and a lot of forward motion to kind of self-actualize on my own terms. And yet the practice itself started to deconstruct it. And there was a series of months when I actually was able to watch that narrative kind of turn inside out and into a different story of realizing that I didn't understand my own family. And that it was my own sort of teenage narcissism that felt entitled to being sort of understood and center and, having her narrative more validated. And once I turned it inside out and got super interested in understanding who my parents were as people instead of as providers that, made decisions I didn't approve of, everything started to grow again. And instead of having a backwards looking relationship, we began to move forward into what you see today, which is a listening relationship that's really adoring and supportive and accepting. Just strange, my parents are Christian fundamentalists from rural Montana. So it's not like I turned around and became like them, but we came to really want to be together. And my sense of my ancestry through them is one of the most important things in my practice. So that's why I'm going home. And I don't know how long that's gonna last, but I'll see you in the ether anyway. It's important for my practice. And it's also important to have a bit of an adventure right now in this time when there's so many reasons to feel like we don't have control, to make memories of our own. Like we don't have a world to explore. I'm going to explore a little bit. So I'll see you online. And let's do this. Thank you for everything. See you soon.